Canyon Community Yoga. I appreciate you joining me this evening for our 30-minute Wednesday night class. So tonight I decided that I was going to share a class to help lengthen and strengthen the low back. So our low back is an area that we tend to hold a lot of tension, at least some of us. And I notice for me in particular, when I am in my ovulation time or my premenstrual time before my bleed, I tend to notice more tension in my low back area. So I'm going to try to take us through a gentle flow series to help kind of, like I said, lengthen and strengthen our core to support our low back and also just stretch out some of that tension. Hopefully it'll feel really yummy and nourishing for you, and I hope you get a lot out of it. And we'll see if my Facebook Live wants to work properly this time. So thank you for your patience. So we'll go ahead and get started on our mats. And we're going to sit in Virasana. Actually, we're going to sit in simple cross-legged pose, but I'm going to sit up on a block because my hips are tight, which also can contribute to low back issues. So just something to be aware of. We're going to sit up nice and tall, connect our sits bones into the mat, whatever it is you're sitting on, or a block, or even a blanket. Really root into your sits bones, and then extend up the spine, all the way out the crown of your head, like you've got a string pulling your head towards the sky or the ceiling. We'll just connect with our breath here. And we're going to do 5 rounds where we inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. Feel free to sigh or make any noises to release the tension from the day or the work week. So feel free to continue exhaling through the mouth if you need, especially if you feel like you've got your monkey mind just kind of running in circles. Exhaling through the mouth is great for engaging our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest system. So when I feel particularly anxious, I actually will exhale through the mouth. Otherwise, you can join me to begin doing more traditional yoga breath, inhaling through the nose and then exhaling through the nose. I also like to place my hands on my thighs, palms down. It helps me feel grounded and connected to the earth a little bit more. Feel free to soften your jaw. Allow the teeth to part from each other, the top and the bottom teeth. Allow the cheeks to soften. Release the tongue from the roof of your mouth. You can also try Ujjayi breath, where you gently allow the exhales to gently stroke the back of your throat. Might sound like Darth Vader breath or ocean waves crashing. And I really enjoy Ujjayi breath. It really helps to ground me, center me, help me focus on the present moment, especially if I'm in a pose that's a little more challenging. I really like having Ujjayi breath to check in with my body and kind of recenter myself a little bit more. So we're going to do some side stretches and some twisting next. You can place your right hand on the mat next to your right hip, or you can place it on the right hip for you. Inhale, bring the left arm up alongside the left ear. And exhale and fold over to the right any amount. You can gaze up under that left arm if you'd like. So we'll inhale, we'll come back to center. We'll change the cross of our legs. We'll inhale, bring the right arm up alongside the right ear, left hand placed down on the mat next to our left hip. Bend the torso over to the left. Feel free to gaze up under that right arm. Inhale, come back up to center. And then fold forward over the legs. You can kind of rock from side to side here. Should feel a nice stretch in the low back. And then we'll bring ourselves back up to center. And next we're going to take a little twist here. So twists are really good for supporting our digestive system, and they can also help to strengthen and lengthen the low back. So we'll first sit up nice and tall. Again, ground those sits bones into the mat. We'll take an inhale and then exhale and rotate to the right any amount. You can place the left hand on the right knee. As you inhale, see if you can sit up a little bit taller, and as you exhale, see if you can rotate even just a micro amount with your abdominals, not using your hand to twist yourself over. Once you've twisted as far as you can to the right, you can gaze over that right shoulder. We'll inhale and come back to center. And then go ahead and change the cross of the legs once again. Connect those sits bones into the mat. Inhale, sit up nice and tall. Exhale, rotate to the left any amount. Again, inhale, sit up a little taller. Exhale, rotate to the left just a little bit more. Left hand is back behind your left hip. And once you've twisted as far as you can, feel free to gaze over that left shoulder. And we'll come back to center and then fold over the legs once again. Again, feel free to rock from side to side. And we'll come back up to center, and then we'll flip over onto hands and knees into tabletop position. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. This helps protect the alignment and helps protect the wrists in particular and the hips. Press the tops of the feet down on the mat. We're going to inhale and lift our forehead and our tailbone up towards the sky. And then exhale, pull the belly button back towards the spine. Inhale to come up. Exhale, pull back. Inhale to come up. Exhale, pull back. Inhale up. Exhale back. And then take 2 more rounds following your own breath pattern. And then we'll meet together in tabletop position. So one of the best ways to protect our spine and our low back in particular is to do a little bit more core work to strengthen our core muscles. The back muscles are not made to handle a lot of weight, a lot of tension. The core muscles are a much bigger muscle group and they're able to handle that a little bit more. So it's really important to do some abdominal work to help support the back even better. So bring the right fingertips out in front, left toes back behind us. We'll inhale. We're going to lift just the right arm up alongside the right ear. Press up from that left wrist. Lengthen through that left heel. Pull the belly button in towards the spine. Then exhale, lower down to the mat. And then we'll switch sides. So left fingertips out in front, right toes back behind us. We'll inhale. Exhale, lift just the left arm alongside the left ear. Press through that back right heel. The toes are still on the mat here. Pull the belly button in towards the spine. Then we'll exhale, lower the hand, lower the knee. We'll switch sides, and this time we'll lift the leg and the arm. So right fingers out in front, left toes back behind us. Press up from that left wrist. We'll inhale. And then exhale, lift the right arm and the left leg. Reach through the right fingertips. Press through the left heel behind you. Exhale, lower everything back down to the mat. We'll switch sides. Left fingertips out in front, right toes back behind you. We'll inhale. And then exhale, lift the left arm and the right leg. Reach through the left fingertips, press through the right heel. Exhale, lower everything down to the mat. Then we'll take a child's pose here to really help stretch out our low back in case you had any tension that you might have been gripping or holding on to in that last pose. So in child's pose, you can lower the torso down over the thighs. You can also keep the big toes touching and widen the knees the distance or the width of the mat. In either case, you're going to lower your torso down towards the mat with your forehead on the mat or on a block. Your fingers are extended out in front of you and your elbows are lifted off the mat. You want your tailbone reaching towards your heels. They may not reach, they just need to go in that direction. And you can bring yourself back up to tabletop. And then we're going to go ahead and this time we will bring the knees together, lower back down to child's pose, and we'll take the arms over to the left for a little stretch on the side here. And then we'll switch sides, so pull over to the left this time. And then we'll come back to center here. And then we'll press up to our first downward facing dog of the evening. So wrists slightly in front of the shoulders And our toes are on the mat. We're going to pull the hips up and back into downward facing dog. Feel free to pedal your feet out or walk your dog here. Then we're going to step the feet up in between the hands. And we're going to take a forward fold here. Feel free to bend your knees if your hamstrings are tight. You can clasp the elbows here, allow the head to lengthen towards the mat or the floor. And then we'll inhale, sweep the arms up and around, and exhale the hands to heart center. So we'll take one sun salutation A here. We're going to inhale, sweep the arms up, and then we're going to exhale and fold forward. Again, feel free to bend the knees. Inhale, lift the torso halfway up. Exhale, plant the hands, step the feet back, drop the knees down to tabletop, and then lower the torso all the way to the mat. And one way to really lengthen the low back, press all 10 toes into the mat, pull the tailbone down towards the heels, and then lift just the torso up into cobra on an inhale. And then exhale, push up to tabletop, and then pull back to downward facing dog. Step the feet up in between the hands. Inhale as you lift the torso halfway up. Again, feel free to bend the knees here. Exhale to fold forward. Inhale, sweep the arms up and around. Exhale the hands to heart center. Then we're going to do one round of our sun salutation B. So we're going to actually start in chair pose. So we'll inhale, we'll drop our seat towards the ground. We want to make sure our knees are not poking past our toes here. And we want our tailbone lengthening down towards the mat. Inhale, arms up alongside the ears. Pull the thighs towards each other. Then exhale and fold forward. Inhale, lift the torso halfway up. Exhale, plant the hands, step back to tabletop, lower the torso down to the mat. Press all 10 toes into the mat. Pull the tailbone towards the heels. Inhale the torso up to cobra. Exhale, pull back to downward facing dog. Again, feel free to pedal the feet out here. Then we'll step the feet up in between the hands. Oops, sorry. Actually, stay back. Stay back in downward facing dog. We're going to pick up the right heel a couple feet off the mat. Inhale and then exhale. Place it in between the hands. You can keep your hands on either side of your foot here. Press through that left heel. Or you can pull the hands up to the bent right knee. If you feel wobbly, pull the belly button in towards the spine. If you feel pretty steady, go ahead and bring your arms up alongside your ears. And then exhale, plant the hands, step back to downward facing dog or child's pose, yogi's choice. And then we'll meet all back together in downward facing dog. Then we'll lift the left leg on an inhale and then exhale, place it in between the hands. Again, feel free to leave your hands on either side of the foot here. Press through that back right heel. Maybe bring the hands up to the bent left knee. If you feel wobbly, pull the belly button in towards the spine. If you're not already, maybe bring the arms up alongside the ears. Then we'll exhale, plant the hands, step back to downward facing dog. Take a couple breaths here or in child's pose. Then we'll step the feet up in between the hands at the top of the mat. Inhale, lift the torso halfway up. Exhale, fold forward. Again, feel free to bend your knees here. And then inhale, we're going to lower our seat to chair. Bring the arms up alongside the ears. Exhale, come to standing. Bring the hands to heart center. Pull the belly button in towards the spine. Lengthen the tailbone down towards the heels. And then we're going to go ahead and do plank pose a few times. So we've got a couple options here. Go ahead and start in your tabletop position. And then we're going to actually lower the torso all the way down. You want to place your elbows underneath your shoulders and your hands straight out in front of you with the palms nice and wide, almost like you're in downward facing dog. Then you're going to flip the bottoms of the toes so that they're on the mat. Take an inhale, and on your next exhale, go ahead and lift your torso and your hips up off the mat. You want to be in a nice straight line here. If this is too much for you, you can always drop the knees. You still get quite a bit out of it. And then go ahead and lower everything down to the mat. Pick one cheek to lay down on the mat. Feel free to roll your hips from side to side here. And then we'll line up our hands once again. Elbows underneath the shoulders. Our heart lifted towards the sky. Take a nice big inhale. On your next exhale, go ahead and flip the toes. Lift the hips up off the mat, or you can lower the knees, but still lift the hips up off the mat. Exhale, lower everything down. Switch which cheek is on the mat. Again, feel free to rock from side to side with the hips. And then come back to center, and we'll do it one more time. Elbows underneath the shoulders, fingers out in front. We'll inhale, and on the next exhale, flip the toes, lift the hips off the mat. You can also lift the knees off the mat. Remember to breathe here. Press those forearms and those hands into the mat. Pull the belly button towards the spine. And then exhale, lower the knees, lower everything down to the mat. Place the head on the mat. Rock the hips from side to side if you'd like. And then we'll set ourselves up for Sphinx pose to get a little bit more stretch in our abdominals. So we'll actually keep the elbows under the hips, press the hands into the mat, and lift just the torso up off the mat. Lift the head and the heart towards the ceiling or the sky. Feel free to close your eyes here if you'd like. Should feel a nice stretch through the front body. Press the tops of the feet into the mat to really engage the legs. And then we'll place the forehead down on the mat. We're going to bring the big toes to touch. Hands are underneath the shoulders. We're going to do a few rounds of locust pose. So we'll pull the tailbone towards the heels. Inhale and lift just the torso and the forehead up off the mat. Just a baby amount, a baby cobra. And then exhale, lower one cheek down to the mat. Again, feel free to rock from side to side with your hips. Next, we're going to bring the hands so that the palms are facing the sky down by our hips. We'll turn so that the chin is resting on the mat. Pull the tailbone towards the heels. So before you do anything where you're lifting up, you need to engage, lengthen that low back first and engage the core muscles. So pull the tailbone towards the heels. Inhale. And then exhale, lift the toes and the hands up off the mat. Exhale, lower everything down, switch sides for which cheek is resting on the mat. In the last round here, you're going to clasp the hands together right on the tailbone or a little above it. You're going to place your chin on the mat. Big toes are still touching. Lengthen the low back towards the heels. Inhale. And then exhale. You're going to lift your toes, lift your hands and your torso up off the mat. Remember to breathe here. Pull the belly button in towards the spine. You can exhale, lower everything down to the mat. Again, rock the hips from side to side. Then we'll push up and back into child's pose. So again, you can keep the thighs together, or you can keep the big toes touching and the knees wide. Lower the hips, lower the torso, lower the forehead. You can even allow the arms to rest on the side if you want, if you don't want the elbows lifted. But I feel like I get a little bit longer of a stretch if I keep the elbows lifted and the arms active. So we'll inhale, and then we're going to go ahead and switch, turn around so that our butts are on the mat. We're going to do forward fold here before we take our Shavasana. So my hips, I have a tailbone that likes to stick out away from me. So the blanket, sitting on a blanket really helps to align my hips a lot better. So I highly recommend it if you have a similar issue. Otherwise, just sit up nice and tall on your sits bones. Again, lengthen through the crown of your head. Inhale the arms up alongside the ears, and then exhale and fold forward. Maybe you can grab your calves or your ankles. Maybe you can wrap your hands around your feet. In any of these positions, if your hamstrings are tight, feel free to bend your knees. You can even rest the torso on your thighs. And I actually find that this stretches my low back even better. And sometimes low back tension can be due to really tight hamstrings. So just kind of play around with it. Maybe as you've been sitting here, you can extend your legs a little bit more. And then you can inhale, come back up with the arms, and then lower the arms down by the sides. And then we're going to set up for Shavasana. So, especially with low back tension, I like to put something under my knees. So, a blanket, a bolster, a pillow, a towel that's rolled up. There are a variety of options. Just try some different things and see what works best for your body. So go ahead and lay back into your corpse pose or Shavasana. You can allow the feet to splay open any amount. Another option, if you've got a tight low back, is getting the feet to the outer edge of the mat and then bringing the knees in towards each other. So kind of, you want the feet to be kind of in line with your knees, not out in front like I'm only doing it this way because the blanket is kind of in the way. So you've got that option too. You can allow the hands to splay open about 45 degrees, palms facing up or down. Maybe rotate the shoulder blades so that they're flat on the mat. Allow the body to slowly sink into your mat, to feel supported by the earth. Allow any stress or tension you've been holding on to from the day or from the week to be released into the earth. And in exchange for releasing that tension, the earth will give you back energy and strength and vitality. Stay here as long as you need. And when you're ready, begin to lengthen your inhales and your exhales. Roll over to your right side. You can use your right arm as a pillow and take a couple breaths here. Then push yourself up using your left hand to a comfortable seated position. So I hope you've been able to lengthen and strengthen your low back with this practice. I appreciate you joining me either live or on the replay. May the compassion, the love, and the light in me honor the compassion, the love, and the light in you. Thank you for joining me this evening. Namaste.